Before we begin, I want to invite you into the Jubilee Haven Patreon community, a quiet space where we go deeper into healing, spiritual connection, and the quiet mysteries that guide us. If this podcast has touched you, your support here helps me keep creating these conversations. The link is patreon.com/deathismylife, and I will put the link in the show notes. Thank you.
Happy New Year and welcome to Death is My Life podcast. I'm your host, Jolene. Today I want to talk about why we keep failing New Year's resolutions and what they were never meant to be. Let's talk about the end of one year and the beginning of the next. It has become customary to make a New Year's resolution and begin implementing it on January 1st. And while I am all about self-improvement and growing and learning and becoming the best versions of ourselves that we can, I believe that, like many traditions in our society, the original meaning of this one has become distorted. Each year, people swear they'll start going to the gym, stick to a diet, or finally get serious about saving money. But did you know that most people give up on their New Year's resolutions within just 2 weeks? Statistics show that only about 9% of resolutions are successfully maintained throughout the entire year. 9%. Think about that for a moment. Think about all the resolutions that you've made over the years. How long did you keep up with them? I don't think resolutions fail because we lack discipline or motivation. I think they fail because the way we approach January 1st is simply out of alignment with natural rhythms. New Year's resolutions are not a modern invention. This tradition goes back thousands of years and appeared across many ancient cultures. But back then, resolutions weren't about optimization. They were about alignment. They were communal, ritual-based, and meaning-centered. When we talk about New Year's resolutions, it's easy to assume this is a modern invention, something created by the self-help industry or the gym memberships in January. But the truth is, humans have been marking the turning of the year for thousands of years. What's different and how they did it and why? One of the earliest recorded traditions comes from ancient Babylon over 4,000 years ago. Their New Year festival was called Akitu, and it didn't happen in January. It happened in the spring when the earth was waking back up, when the seeds were being planted, and when life was visibly beginning again. During Akitu, people made promises, but not to themselves. They made promises to the gods and to the community. These promises weren't about becoming thinner or more productive. They were about repair, returning borrowed items, paying debts, restoring honesty, realigning with what mattered. Change wasn't private. It was communal. It was witnessed. Later in ancient Rome, January was named after the god Janus, a god with two faces, one looking back, one looking forward. Janus represented thresholds, doorways, and transitions, and honoring Janus meant pausing at the doorway between what had been and what was coming. That pause mattered. People reflected on the past year, not to judge it, but to understand it. They made vows about character, integrity, and how they wanted to show up in their relationships and civic life. Again, this wasn't about self-optimization. It was about orientation. Even in early Christian traditions, the turning of the year was marked with watch night services, long, quiet gatherings focused on reflection, repentance, and renewal. The emphasis wasn't on doing more. It was about being honest with what had passed and making space for grace. Across cultures and centuries, one thing stays consistent. The new year was never meant to begin with pressure. It was meant to begin with meaning. Somewhere along the way, that changed. As society became more industrialized, more productivity focused, and more individualistic, the new year shifted from a communal ritual into a personal performance. Instead of asking, how am I aligned with my values, we began asking, how can I fix myself? And we began asking that question alone. Today, many of us sit quietly on January 1st, scrolling through lists of goals, feeling the weight of expectation, believing that if we just try harder this year, we'll finally be worthy of rest, happiness, or abundance. But in winter, historically and biologically, we were never meant to push forward. Winter was a time to slow down, to gather, to reflect, to conserve energy, to listen. So, when resolutions fail, I don't think it's because we are undisciplined. I think it's because we are asking our nervous systems, our bodies, and our spirits to do something they were never designed to do in this season. What if January isn't meant to be a launch? What if it's a threshold? A moment to stand still, look back with honesty, look forward with gentleness, carrying not a list of demands, but a single guiding intention. Today, resolutions tend to be isolated, productivity-driven, and performance-based. We expect change to happen without ceremony and without support. We confuse worthiness with willpower. And we assume January is a time for action, when throughout most of human history, winter was a time for rest and reflection. This is not an episode about failure. This is an episode about questioning the norms and about creating new traditions that are gentler, more sustainable, and more likely to be truly life-changing. So instead of resolutions, I want to invite you to consider New Year's intentions. Let's talk about what an intention is and what it isn't. It is not a goal. It is not a to-do list or something to achieve or check off. It is a way of being, a lighthouse gently guiding your soul toward what matters most. To help you find your intention, ask yourself this question. What word feels like relief when I imagine carrying it with me? This year, my intention is receiving, without guilt and without apology. As I was sitting with this intention, I also pulled an oracle card asking for guidance from the universe. And serendipitously, I received the message of abundance. Prepare yourself for incoming abundance. Release any mental blocks you may have. There is enough abundance for everyone. So receiving is something I struggle with deeply, and I think many caregivers can relate to this. It's not that I don't want to receive, it's that asking for help is hard. I carry some deeply rooted, self-fulfilling beliefs, like the idea that I must give something in order to receive something. When I'm given a gift, especially a spontaneous one, my first feeling is often guilt or unworthiness. Somewhere along the way, I internalized the belief that if I receive abundance, I'll stop giving or stop producing. But when I really sit with that thought, it doesn't make sense. If I receive openly, I actually have more to share. I was recently given the opportunity to receive a couple months ago when I started this podcast. I knew that it would cost money and equipment and programs. Just uploading episodes costs money. So I wanted to get a good head start, and I created a GoFundMe account. And I was graciously given, my first donation was $100. And that was like, wow, it was amazing. And it just made me feel like people really had faith in what I was going to do. But because of my deep-seated problem with receiving, I immediately felt like a little flutter in my chest, and I felt a pang of guilt. And I have no idea why, because I need the money and I'm so grateful for the money. And I would imagine people wouldn't donate if they couldn't or they didn't believe in me. So I'm walking through these problems, but I immediately closed myself off to receiving after that. I even shut down my GoFundMe account. So that's how serious this is, that I need to work on my acceptance of receiving, because I couldn't emotionally receive, and then I couldn't actually receive because my account was no longer. So again, thank you so much to that person who donated. It really helped me get a good head start, because everything in podcasting costs money, and it gave me the opportunity to realize that I have an intention to work on. Living into an intention doesn't happen overnight. It may take me a year or a month or maybe well into next year to fully understand what receiving means for me. But that's okay. Intentions are not meant to be rushed. So what can I do to keep this intention alive throughout the year? I can start by asking for help without immediately trying to negotiate how I can earn it. I can accept compliments without minimizing them or myself. I can practice imagining myself receiving and gently shift feelings of guilt into gratitude. And most importantly, I can remain deeply thankful for what I already have and for what I'm given. I want to invite you now to reflect on your own New Year's intention. If you feel comfortable, share it with me and check back in before the year ends. Let's build a community that supports one another outside of the norms of hustle, pressure, and perfection. A community that honors rhythm, rest, and becoming slowly, honestly, and together. Have a great 2026.